I grew up by the sea down in Cornwall, so I guess I've always felt really relaxed in that environment. Find this noise of the sea quite soothing.
So we're off to Wensor at Gogarth to meet Libby Peters. Now Libby is a British mountain guide and author of the Red Book, Rock Climbing Essentials, which virtually every mountaineering instructor has bought and used. So the good news on my side today is I think Libby is going to lead the hard pitches, and being a mountain guide, I'm hoping she places enough gear too.
Discovering that you could go climbing in these places kind of blew me away. It was sort of seeing it through a whole different set of eyes. It kind of feels really privileged to get into some of these places, because you can't like just wander to the bottom of the crag. It is quite involved to get in there, and there's different factors, tides and weather, and so when everything finally aligns and you get to go and do some of these routes that you've been reading about and seeing pictures of for years, it feels super special. You're in a place that hardly anyone gets to go and hang out, so it kind of gives it an extra something. I guess it's like that, always searching for places that feel a little bit empty and unique that we don't get so much these days.
So sea cliff climbing is probably my favourite form of climbing, and I think it's arguably what the British Isles has that is arguably most unique and most special. And the reason it is special is because places like Gogarth, the cliffs, it's an adventure. So Dream White Horses is, I would say, the classic of not only the crag, but of, it's the most classic of classics within the British Isles. So it's put up by Ed Drummond and Dave Pearce in 1968. And before that, the crag had been developed by the likes of Joe Brown, Pete Crew and Martin Boyson. And they're the people who put up Concrete Chimney and Wen. But Dream White Horses just goes somewhere that looks so unlikely, taking that arcing line across the slab, which from the promontory opposite just looks impossible. And then it takes this terrain that almost only E5s should go along, but on, holds that are substantially bigger than E5s.
So good.
So even today, many years on since I first did it, and having a few grades in hand, it is something you still got to respect, because you're often going sideways. You've got to remember that you're protecting the route, not just for you as the leader, but perhaps even more importantly for your second as well, who's basically going to be, pretty much have the same exposure that you will, only it's completely out of their control.
At the belay.
That's me on blue.
It's quite an updraft just here actually. It's not too bad down on that ledge. Climbing, you ready, Rob?
Okie dokie.
Oh, it's so beautiful, isn't it? Gonna have to take a photo.
That bit's a bit techie, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because you're really picking out the feet, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, yeah.
The feet don't just fall into place, do they?
And, you know, you're on a couple of small holds for a second there.
Yeah.
When you're doing these things, it is nice to like take a step back and like look at what's around you. A little earlier there was a seal down there. I'll keep an eye out for it, but
Yeah, the colour of the water now.
I would say it's inviting, but there's nowhere I'd rather be less than in that sea right now. Feels like we're on an alpine north face, Libby.
It does actually. Like if that was glacier, not sparkly sea, it could totally be. What is this, day 3?
Yeah, yeah.
Haven't seen the sun for 3 days. That's in situ, that thing.
Oh, oh yeah, that's seen better days, hasn't it?
Going to the pink one.
Going to Pinky.
Like pink Venus. He's got something.
I mean, a professionally built belay, they don't come any better than this.
No, you can't get complacent. Do you know where you're going?
No, I don't actually. Well, I do and I don't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I go along that flake line there, don't I, basically, and
then the next one.
And then the next one, and
Like,
then round a bit, and then down a bit.
Down a bit, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wait, Rob,
Yo.
where are you going? Oh, you are going that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I just thought you were
step
questing
across.
up there.
Yeah, I was just going up when. Where am I going?
So I checked.
Mountain crags have a more somber atmosphere, whereas it's really vibrant. It's really vibrant here. You've got wildflowers, you've got wildlife, and then yeah, in terms of the atmosphere itself within Wenzhorn, I mean, it just feels like you're just going down into the middle of this cauldron that's sort of boiling up with, you know, water and wind and all of the rest of it. And Libby and I were saying about this actually whilst we were down there, is like, if that wind wasn't there, or if that water wasn't whipping up, it could have such a different feel. But all of those sorts of things build up, and these factors to give the route and the place like a psychological advantage. The second pitch takes another really lovely arcing sort of flake crag, but it's not a crag. And whilst the handholds are good, the gear, you've got to just sort of like be careful, you know, make sure you fit enough in the right places, both for yourself and your second. But the feet are actually quite smeary, but the texture of the rock, the quartzite, is really good. There is friction to it, but you just got to make sure your body positions are right to match. I did another flake test there, Libby, you know, when you're like boom boom, and yeah.
Lean back in really quick. Can't tell if it was the wind or the rock moving.
So Libby, shall I go a couple across? So into this bay and then on to the next?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, you end up near that sort of down climb bit.
Yeah, just this bit here.
Yeah. They are some of the most beautiful places to climb. Yeah, the sunlight through the water, the colour of the sea, you know, like infinitely sort of different every time you go. The play of the light on the water, the effect of the wind on the sea. You could just, you know, like you could just sit and stare at that, you know, for hours, couldn't you, even regardless of the climbing.
And then the third and final pitch is just, for me, that is the one, that is the pitch of Dream White Horses, where you're doing this kind of horizontal traverse around the sort of top of this amphitheatre above where the arch is. And on that, they're pretty good holds, but just the world feels like it drops away beneath you. And that is the one for me. The exposure of that is mind-blowing.
You know, Dream of White Horses has got immaculate climbing on it, and then you layer it up with the setting, and it just, you know, it sends it into into the league of its own, which is why it's a much coveted route. It's a 4-star pitch in itself, even if it wasn't, you know, like it hadn't done the rest of the climb or it was somewhere else. It's incredible climbing. Like it's got 1 or 2 tricky moves, but on the whole it's really steady at the grade. But the line's not, it's not like it's just a jug line, you know, it's intricate. You know, you've got little down climbs and then little up climbs and then little round erect bits, and you know, and sometimes you're swinging out on these hero jugs and it feels really amazing, and then other times you're like, where the hold's gone, and teetering around a bit. So it's like keeps the interest going.
So Gogarth, I would say, is one of the premier sea cliff venues within the British Isles, and it's renowned for having quite wild routes and wild experiences. I remember when I first moved to North Wales, when I used to live here, and everyone had said, you've got to be able to climb VS before you climb at Gogarth. And that is true. The majority of the routes are VS, HBS and above. But we've just been, you know, in one place. There is so many other crags dotted around this headland, all of which are good.
Oh, it's like being on a different crag here.
It looks like sunny. It's
Yeah.
this pitch is also quite surreal, Libby, because of how, you know, you seem really close.
Yes.
It's like quite chatty, conversational, line of sight.
Yeah, the straight line,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
crow's fly is really
Yeah.
short, isn't it? And yet you've done all this shenanigans already. You think you're ready to do it, I would just hold off a little bit longer until you're really, really ready. Just because I think you'll enjoy it more if you're really comfortable at the grade, but also comfortable in that sort of environment. So try and do a little bit of put the pieces together, you know, climbing at solidly at hard VS, climbing traverses, climbing on sea cliffs, and then go and do it, because I think you'll just savour it a bit more if you've got a bit more capacity to enjoy the situation rather than be really stressed. That would be my advice. That and lots of slings.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Doesn't matter how many times you've done it,
Yeah.
still good. Made it!
Now that final pitch is crazy.
Yeah.
Stopped a few times just to look down because it's so ridiculous.
I forgot to do that. Yeah.
It's been a few years since I've done that, and yeah, it is just, it's a dream of white horses.
It is.
There is only one.
Yeah. There is only one. Yeah.